Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, a weekly podcast where the team members from That Nerdy Site get together to talk about our lives and all of the nerdy things we love about them. Joining me this week, we have Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Hey, what's going on, nerds?
What is going on? We have Christian Puente, aka Pixel Brave. How you doing, Christian?
Hello.
And we have Jazz Foster. How you doing, Jazz?
Hey.
If you enjoy what you hear, please remember you can like, subscribe, rate, review the podcast everywhere you can. If you're feeling extra generous, you can always support us over on Patreon at patreon.com/thatnerdysite. No new patrons this week, but thank you to those that are supporting us and continue supporting us during these weird times. Last week we did, I sat down with Logan. We kind of did a dedicated topic of the show talking about much ado about nothing. This week is more back to kind of the normal routine of the show, where everybody kind of has a thing that we're going to discuss and bring to the table. I'm going to go ahead and actually, I don't usually do this, but just given the response we got when we were going over stuff, I'm going to bring mine to the table first, because everybody really seemed eager to talk about this one. Real quick, I've been playing a couple games, but we're not going to talk about them here because we're going to have some dedicated episodes, I think, in the future to them. But I've finished playing Persona 5 Royal. And then I also went through and kind of replayed The Last of Us in anticipation for the sequel coming up shortly. But the main thing I want to talk about today is after years and years of hearing everybody kind of praise this show, I started watching Avatar: The Last Airbender when it came to Netflix this last weekend.
Yay.
And everybody else was like, "Oh my god, yay, congrats!" So yeah, I'm only a few episodes in so far. I think I've watched the first 4 or 5 episodes.
Oh, okay.
The last one I watched was the one where Aang kind of faces off against this Earthbender, old trickster man that ends up kind of being more connected than we thought.
Yeah.
That's a good
so that was
episode.
a fun little episode, but yeah, my initial impressions jumping into this were, oh my god, everybody's love of Breath of the Wild makes so much more sense right now.
Yes.
And-
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
And the pull from that being that Aang has, is this, savior of the world and has been basically stuck in animated frozenness for the last 100 years, just like Link was going into Breath of the Wild. And so this, the world has been in turmoil for 100 years waiting for this savior. And he can, fly on the wind and all sorts of stuff. And so, yeah, just the first episode in particular, I was like, oh, yeah, everybody I know that loved Breath of the Wild are the kind of people that grew up on this show. So yeah, it makes sense. That clicks right now. Whereas I did not have that touchstone and innate immediate love of Breath of the Wild. So yeah, that was immediately my first real comparison between the two. But outside of that, I'm very much enjoying the show so far. It's I joked before we
I like
started,
how that was a
talking.
negative point for you.
No, it's not even it's not a negative point. It is just an observation that I made
Yes.
of,
And that's an astute
like-
observation because I never made that observation before. That's interesting.
yeah. It's weird coming at it with that lens of Breath of the Wild quote unquote coming first to me. And so yeah, just those immediate narrative beats that are kind of touched on in that first episode, I was like, okay, yep. Zelda or not Zelda, Link in Breath of the Wild is basically Aang, and so the people that grew up with the Last Airbender immediately or are subconsciously maybe making that connection.
That's interesting because Avatar: The Last Airbender is never aired in Japan.
Okay.
It doesn't have a Japanese translation. We know that because when Platinum was put in charge of the Korra game, they had no idea what was going on in the story, and they had no connection to it whatsoever because, the publisher and everybody had to get translations of some episodes to them, so that they had some context to the people of the game that they were making and how the world works.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that Breath of the Wild was directly drawing inspiration
No, and-
from Airbender.
Yeah.
It was more just like, oh, they both kind of landed on that same, the lost hero coming back after 100 years of war or strife.
Yeah, that trope is very it's underutilized to an extent, so I enjoy
Yep.
it.
But yeah, so I'm still very new to it, and was joking that I don't know all the characters' names yet. My biggest kind of touch point to this prior to this was just knowing how terribly panned the movie was, the M. Night Shyamalan movie was, and how everybody hated that. And I remember I'm a big fan of the series Honest Trailers, and at years ago I was much more of a fan of CinemaSins before I've kind of like outgrown their more negative bent. But like I'd seen lots of videos on the original film and just how bad of an adaptation it was and stuff, and so that was really my only core touchstone to this, outside of like, oh, okay, I know there's airbending and waterbending, and it's hey they can control the elements, cool. So coming into this, I'm still learning characters' names and stuff, but I very much enjoy Waterbender Girl and her warrior brother dude.
Yeah.
What is it Appa or Appa? That's the flying
Appa.
bison thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. Oh,
Yep,
Trevor,
yeah.
I love this. I love how new you are to it. So you're throwing around all this terminology that just like, oh, it's so good.
Trevor,
Yeah.
while you
Because you're so new to it. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
While you're giving your impressions, I was trying to remember when I had watched it, because you mentioned like some people grow up on this, and that's true. But for me, I was a little older than the target demographic, and so I remember seeing it on the background if like cousins were watching it, but thinking like, this looks like anime, but I can also tell it's not. So like, and it's like on Nick in the middle of that. So like, I wasn't exactly the demographic for it. I was a little older, and so. So what got me to finally watch it was seeing the trailer for the adaptation, and I knew, hey, this looks like it's gonna be bad, but I can't just talk shit.
Oh.
I can't talk shit about it for no reason. I need to have an actual conversation. So that's what got me to finally watch the series.
You were able to put your refined anime palette aside, and
I mean, I wasn't
pick
above
up
it.
this Western garbage.
I wasn't like above it. It just didn't look like I was like who it was aimed at. And so, but no, it was really cool, and I checked it out, and obviously loved it. But the reason why I'm bringing it up is because I was like, what year was that again? The movie came out, and it says 2010, so I must have been in my early 20s when I watched that. So yeah, so just to give context, like, yeah, people coming into this at different times. Some people grew up with it as kids. Me in my early 20s, and you right now.
Yeah, me now at 35, and yeah, because the show originally aired 2005 to 2008. So if I had watched it at that time, I would have already still been 2 years into college. So yeah, it's very interesting coming at it, but knowing like who in my feed and whatnot that I've seen sing its praises over the years, I'm like, yeah, those are all of my younger friends in these communities and stuff. So actually, absolutely checks out. Yeah, Jazz.
I wouldn't call it universal per se, because everyone has their own thoughts, obviously. But this was one of 2 cartoons that my mom would watch with me when I was a kid. In case anyone was curious, the other one was Rocket Power, because fuck yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, but no, my mom loved this show. And it was very, my mom and I have a history of watching shows together, mostly cop shows, but this was one of the ones she would always watch it whenever it was on. One of 2 cartoons. This is also the first show that I consciously had a ship in before I knew what that meant.
Tell it. Say it loud and proud. Be proud of who you supported. Do it.
I don't want to
Wait,
spoil anything for Trevor.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Oh.
I will say right now,
Yeah.
it's not a canon ship. It never became a canon ship, and boy, was I mad about that at the time.
Yes,
so,
I already know what it is. I already know what it is. I already know what it is. And you know what, Jazz? You're not alone. 100%.
You goddamn right, I'm not.
Are you kidding me?
like-
Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh, yes. Okay.
Knowing nothing about the show,
I
now
think
I'm
Cameron
like,
does know exactly who I'm talking about too. Wow.
yeah. So knowing nothing about the show, I'm like, okay, are Waterbender Girl and Firebender Brat gonna like hook up or not, or is that the ship?
Trevor, there's no spoilers here.
Prince Zuko, right? That's the Firebender
Nice.
guy.
It is. Yes, that's the Firebender
Good
guy.
catch on his name.
That
Now,
name I'm
name his
only pulling
awesome uncle.
because he's freaking it's Zuko. So I'm like Danny Zuko from Greece.
I hate that
Oh,
comparison.
nice. Yeah.
Ah.
Hey, and
I'm
Trevor,
okay with it actually.
Trevor, I'm curious. Do you recognize the voice for Zuko?
Oh no, I have not been paying
I
attention
don't.
to at all like who these
It's
voices are.
it's Rufio.
Let me give you a hint. Bangarang!
Is it Rufio? Okay.
Yeah, it's Rufio.
That's interesting because I did I did have a hint of that at some point in one of those first episodes, but I remember him because that's what Dante
Basco?
Bosco?
Dante Basco, yeah.
Yeah. I remember. So I probably actually knew that somewhere in the back of my mind somewhere.
I totally believe that. Yeah.
But yeah, because he's somebody that when I've gone back and watched Hook or something, I've been like, oh, what is he up to? And I know he I remember famously seeing him in an episode of Undressed on MTV when I was a kid.
Oh my gosh, Undressed.
And
Now
being
there's
like,
a
oh, this is
show.
weird seeing Rufio go into that MTV softcore kind of style. But then yeah, I knew he'd especially around the time of Robin Williams passing. I remember he kind of reemerged in my purview, kind of doing a tribute thing or something. I think I'd looked him up at that point to see what he'd been doing. So,
Hey,
very cool.
side tangent. Do you guys remember that character from Undressed where he had trash written on his right above his crotch, and it was because he's trash. You hire him to bang your girlfriend, that you can break up with her guilt free. And he's talking to this
I do
girl,
not
and he
remember
tells
that.
her that
Excuse me?
the A used to be an I, and it said Trish, and she cheated on him and broke his heart, so he put trash there instead.
I do not remember that very specific.
Yeah, I don't remember anything about
That has
Undressed other
stuck with
than,
me my entire life. It has
other
never
than the
really
fact
left
that
my
I-
cognizant mind. I want you to know that.
Yeah, I remember staying up late and hiding from my parents that I was watching that in my room kind of thing, and that's about all I remember about it. But yeah, so and because again, going back to when this aired, if it had been a few years earlier, that still would have been when I would have been watching Nick shows and stuff. But to Jazz's point, Rocket Power is another one of those that just passed me by. It just missed it.
You missed out.
Bro,
man.
it was great.
Rocket
It was
Power
so
is the
good.
best. Wiggity, what?
I still do that to people.
Because it's great.
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, it's I'm enjoying what I'm seeing so far. It's fun. It is a nice starter anime-esque show for me as somebody who is not super versed in it. I also just one of the other things I did, I finally sat down and watched the last couple episodes of this last season of My Hero because I was waiting for them to come out in English.
There was a little
but I'm
delay.
guessing because of all the pandemic stuff, those translations just never happened. So I finally sat down and watched the Japanese versions of them.
Getting that
but yeah,
good sub. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So enjoy given that my anime background so far is Death Note and My Hero. This was a nice. It's in that vein. Clearly, anime inspired more than anime really driven. But yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. It scratches that another kind of superhero itch now that I'm done with My Hero for the time being. So I look forward to continuing this journey. I guess my question for everybody is what should I be preparing myself for?
Fun.
Fun?
Yep, just
Oh.
open your heart to fun, and
It's
you will
gonna-
enjoy that show.
It's gonna crush your soul, but in a pleasant way. You're gonna like it for it, but it's gonna hurt, man.
Go
Okay.
in for the fun, leave with the life lessons. That's what I'll say.
All right. And
It is too. It is one of the best kid shows in terms of learning lessons, and so many of the characters you see go through these incredible character arcs and just really grow as people in a way that you don't see in a lot of kid shows, and I think it was really formative for a lot of people.
And it takes time. It doesn't just happen over a single episode. It does take time.
Yeah. I don't know. It's more that it is a lot of fun, but there's so much depth to it that I think you wouldn't necessarily expect for a kid show, and I think Avatar never treated kids the way that a lot of adults treat kids, where you talk in that kind of high-pitched voice, how are you? Do you know how to talk? Wow, that's amazing. What are you, 8? Avatar never did that. It was very much treated kids like they were
Intelligent.
aware enough to understand. Yeah, they could understand life lessons and stuff like that.
So yeah,
And I think that's awesome.
just going with an open heart and looking for fun, and you'll find everything that you need to get from it.
okay. Christian, anything from you?
Yeah, agreeing with everything everybody's saying. Yeah, I think it's a really great adventure story that, like, uh, plot similarities aside, like has a lot similar in like the adventurous spirit of something like a Zelda game or something like that. But like going to what Jazz was saying, but also yeah, it's a full. This is a great example of a show with a lot of character growth and character arcs. Like if like I would love for more people to get into anime because the stories, even though they have a lot of bad tropes, have a lot of great examples of characters going through change and stuff. But a lot of times anime is not for everyone, and so like as far as Western media goes, this is a really good source of like children's quote unquote children's entertainment that like appeals to adults and kids because it even though it has like very silly moments and there's a lot of cartoonish elements like with the character that you met in the kind of loony older character that you mentioned earlier, like it has that, but when appropriate, it also like takes the time to really develop people, and I hope I hope you stick to it.
Yeah, one of the other when they go to the Airbender like temple for the first time or something like that, and you get like the flashback to Aang with his mentor who's using like pies to train him
right.
in airbending and stuff. I was like, okay, I appreciate this goofy old sensei type character. So yeah. Well, cool. I will keep you guys abreast as I continue my journey through Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Awesome. The very last thing I'll say about it is like funny thing that when this I completely was not keeping track of the release date for it because to those who don't know, I love watching reaction videos, and so I've recently been watching a YouTube channel that's watching Avatar for the first time. So I've been going through a bit of a rewatch myself. I'm like halfway through. I'm near the end of season 2 in my rewatch so far.
Nice. Nice. One last thing I'll leave with you, Trevor, is that not all episodes are created equal. Their writing staff is really robust and filled with like really good writers. Sometimes there aren't any. Sometimes the episodes are done for a particular purpose or written by a different group of people that normally don't write for the show. So if an episode feels weird or odd and you're like, I don't know how I feel about it, just keep going. It's probably just going to get like run over. Like nobody's going to talk about it.
I mean, I think Trevor's
especially in the first season. Especially in the first season, there's a couple.
That's fair. As somebody who just rewatched all of Clone Wars, I know, and one of the other few things I knew about Last Airbender was Dave Filoni had worked on the show, and so going through Clone Wars, I totally understand the idea behind filler episodes and whatnot. So I will keep that in mind that people when they sing their near universal praise of Last Airbender might be kind of consciously or subconsciously omitting those filler episodes. From
every show has
There's every show that has such high peaks is going to have some real low lows.
Yeah,
and this show has some.
After Jazz, you had mentioned that you were watching Community a few weeks back on the show. I went through and have like rewatched all of that series, and there were definitely a few of those kinds of episodes in Community where I was like, oh yeah, I completely forgot about like these episodes or this little arc or something like that. Not because it's like terrible, just it didn't reach the heights of some of the other elements of that show.
Sure.
Cool. Well, I will, like I said, I will keep you guys up to date as I continue going through my Avatar: The Last Airbender journey.
Sweet.
Jazz, I'll throw it over to you because you wanted to talk about a couple of things to celebrate. One, as people start lifting restrictions, you're getting to go back to work soon, so yay for that! Congratulations.
Thank you. Yay.
And then you also want to discuss the idea of quarantine birthdays and how they're being handled and stuff. So take it away.
Yeah. I just think that we, as a society, I guess, are developing kind of an interesting reaction to celebrations in the time of Corona, if you will. Mm-hmm. But I've seen a lot of friends go through birthdays around this time, and it's been, 2 full months now, so of course quite a lot of people are having birthdays. And I just think it's interesting the way that we celebrate now, because, normally, like, today is my best friend's birthday. Mm-hmm. He is 28, I think. And last year we went to a bar and we got just lit and sang karaoke and had a great time. And this year, that is obviously not going to happen.
Right.
So after we record this podcast, I'm going to join a Zoom call so we can play Jackbox games with a bunch of his friends. And I just think it's interesting the way that we've adapted, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, a lot of people have had birthdays, like I said, and I know, you know, Chloe had her birthday a couple days ago?
Friday.
I think. She watched both the Incredibles movies on stream. And which is awesome. And those are great movies. But it's just interesting to me how we've adapted, and I think there's pros and cons to it, you know, because like I said, last year for my friend's birthday, we went to a bar, kind of just the two of us. I think his girlfriend was there, so maybe three of us. But today, there's going to be like 12 of us in this Zoom call because we all have the free time. None of us really have to do much real work tomorrow, so you do get to see more people, but from a distance.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's... I mean, I think obviously it's worse on the whole, but there are benefits to it too. So it's just interesting seeing people go through it. I don't know. And Trevor, you mentioned, you know, your birthday was right after we started the work from home thing.
Yeah. So mine, it's interesting kind of thinking back as you're kind of talking about those different examples. 'Cause back, especially when I did theater stuff, I had a few friends in the theater community that all had birthdays like right around the same day as me. And we would do kind of every year, we would do a joint like, hey, everybody, we're going to go hang out at Blissery Bar downtown, kind of a downtown Phoenix bar. And just like all the theater people would come and hang out. And we'd kind of do a joint like all three of us would celebrate. I kind of walked away from that community, you know, the last 5 or 6 years now. And have been more just kind of doing my own thing. I'll occasionally, you know, usually I would do something with my family. We would go do like a Texas Roadhouse or something like that, because that's our like celebratory dinner restaurant of choice. Get a nice steak dinner or something. But we didn't do that this time around. And one of the things that I've seen a lot that I would have considered had it come out like a week earlier would have been an Animal Crossing birthday. But Animal Crossing came out technically like the day after my birthday, but I was it released, you know, that night at like 9 o'clock or something. So I was playing it on my actual birthday for the first few hours. And if it had come out like a week earlier or something, I would have been like, hey everybody, like come over on my island and let's like have a birthday party for me or something. So I just kind of missed the boat on that one as well. Because I started working from home on the 18th. My birthday was the 19th, and then Animal Crossing technically came out on the 20th. So like it hit, and I wasn't planning on doing anything for my birthday anyway, outside of like the biggest plans I would have had was I was looking at an eventual trip out to Disneyland to go hang out with like Ben and Lauren out there or something, because we've done a lot of Disney trips over the last few years, and going and getting myself a lightsaber at Galaxy's Edge, but obviously that also got put on hold. So yeah, that's kind of like how it affected and impacted my birthday, and it was just so early in the swing of everything that I didn't know like how long it was going to last. You know, like my family eventually came by and like gave me a gift or two kind of thing, and we did like socially distanced, like they would set it down and I'd pick it up or something like that. And then finally like for Mother's Day, we all got together and kind of had a little socially distanced Mother's Day. But in general, celebrations, yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people do kind of that kind of stuff through something like Animal Crossing or yeah, Zoom calls. Yeah, I've seen like some Animal Crossing graduations, weddings even. And it's just been a cool like way that game has continued to bring people together as a result of everything else that's going on, as a substitute for everything else that's going on, I guess. But yeah, I just kind of, it happened so early enough that I just kind of missed the boat on really being able to do anything for mine, which is largely fine for me. I got, you know, a lot of nice little birthday wishes online, which is mostly what I would have gotten anyway, given my proclivities to largely stay home anyway. But yeah, that's kind of where I think I fall in this. But yeah, it's interesting, definitely seeing how people are adjusting and trying to like still get that sense of human interaction and all that stuff in the world. Cam or Christian, you have anything to add or weigh in?
Well, when originally Jess said something about quarantine birthdays, my first thought went to all the kids that are going to be born 9 months, like 7 to 9 months from now.
Jeez.
Yeah.
All with names like Quarantina and Lysol,
That's not.
Corona.
Corona. Like, I don't know, that's like calling your kid flu, right? Like that, I don't know if that's going to be okay.
It's either that or it's like calling your kid Modelo.
Yeah. Or like calling your kid swine flu or something like that.
Dos Equis.
Dos Equis.
Oof.
No, I'm people being shut in usually leads to some booms in birthing rates. So we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we're definitely going to see a lot more divorces in the next couple months. So there's that.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing that I've been thinking about. And one of the things I talked about when like my family all finally got together for some Mother's Day stuff was we were just talking about a lot of things in general of how like the weird like effects that we're not going to see for some time, and one of them was the idea that yeah, like obviously wedding rates have dropped significantly in the last few months, but then also you are going to have all these people that are because of the amount of time they're having to spend together when they would have at least had the buffer of work or something like that, or just the added stresses of parents having to also play teacher to their kids and stuff. Seeing the strain that that's going to take on a lot of relationships is going to be an interesting seeing what that does to the divorce rate after all this is said and done.
Yep, I was super curious about that. That's why she's like, birthdays. I was like, yeah, people being born after Corona, like after being conceived on it. That's pretty interesting. And then she's like, yeah, my best friend's having a birthday. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, he's not having a baby, it turns out, just a birthday.
Yeah, just a regular birthday.
Wow.
No, it's like all these unintended consequences.
Wow.
It's been weird because I've been on the job hunt since well before quarantine happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been still hunting for jobs while during the quarantine. It's just made things impossible to find one. But I actually have 2 interviews tomorrow, so I'm pretty stoked for that.
Cool.
Hey, kudos.
Yeah. So yeah, no, like honestly, it's been a weird time just doing these things. Like my parents for Mother's Day. So I have 4 siblings. One lives out of state. But 3 of my siblings are married, and there's 7 kids between those 3. And so, like, on top of that, with, like, siblings, in-laws, whatnot, you have, like, well over 10 people. So for Mother's Day, we did, like, a rotational thing where we each took, like a shift. Where, like, in the morning, this family... Or not Mother's Day so much as it was Easter. Grandkids going Easter hunting. Easter egg hunting, I should say. And that entire weekend was, like, on a rotational shift. Like, who spent this time with who. That way we kept everything under 10 people.
I see.
Nice.
Yeah. So, because that's the whole thing is like, if you shouldn't be in any gatherings more than 10 people. Mm-hmm. And so my family definitely has more than 10 people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how we worked around it. And being this, like, single, not married, not in a relationship, no kids, I was able to kind of spend more time with my parents that weekend because of it. Because it's like, well, I'm just one more person versus, my sisters who each bring 4 extra people with them between a spouse and the kids, and then my brother with his wife, his brother-in-law, and his son. So
yeah, I'm curious, have any of you guys been doing any of kind of the like the family Zoom calls or something to check in with everybody?
My mom called me yesterday. I love my mother. She's 60 years old, and she called me yesterday to ask me how to put Zoom on the TV for my grandma. And I'm sure that that's the thing. This is about to be a universal experience, right? Like,
Yep.
I'm sure a lot of people have had this where they're like, an adult is like, help me connect. And it really was my aunt, who is older than my mom. It's also my grandma's birthday. Happy birthday, Meme. She's 90. Holy shit. And
happy birthday.
yeah, well, but my aunt it's just 90 is so old, right?
Yeah.
Is she okay? Like, health-wise, is she doing all right with everything?
She's 90, man, so, like, no. But but well enough considering.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was saying. Like,
I think that's what Cameron was going for.
Yeah,
I didn't want to be so blunt as to come and say like, does your grandma have the Rona?
Yeah, not dead yet. My other grandma just turned 98.
See, the reason I laugh is because
how are you so young?
I'll never die. Because my mom was 35. We should do the math back, right?
Okay, there
I
you
just have old people. But yeah, so my aunt wanted to Zoom call my grandma for her birthday. But my grandma is 90, so I'm like, she can't, even when you FaceTime on a phone, she can't see you, she can't hear you. So yeah, my mom called, she's like, how do I get Zoom on the TV? And it was like, again, I love my mother, at least 20 minutes of me being like, I don't think you can. And her being like, but I have a nice TV. I'm like, right, but I don't think, like, there's not an app for it on the TV. And she's like, but it's a nice TV. I'm like, I know it's a nice TV.
Yeah.
Your dad said he got the best TV. It's a nice TV.
Yeah, no. So I think she got it figured out on the computer because you cannot Zoom on a TV. But it was,
yeah. My thought would be like, I guess if you had a laptop, you could
HDMI
connect it to the to the TV with an HDMI and at least get like the screen up on there.
They
on the
do
TV.
not have a laptop.
Yeah,
they don't need one.
so-
They just got the desktop. So I was like, just do it on the desktop.
Yeah.
I think they figured it out. I don't know. I didn't hear from them today. I think we're good. A happy birthday was had by my grandma, I'm sure. But yeah, it's becoming a universal experience. You know, you're trying to teach someone older than you how to stay connected in this time where you can't be connected.
Absolutely. I mean, like I see that in my work experience, at least, in the amount of people that don't know what they're doing on the Zoom call, for work, or the people like, because there are some that just like are so defeated they didn't even try to connect via camera and they just call in every week. But yeah, my family, we haven't been doing any kind of Zoom calls. My aunt has been so technology averse that she didn't even have like an internet connection at her house. So for when she got basically told that she was going to start working from home, they had to basically like figure out how to get her house configured and set up and get the internet company out there to hook her up so she could work from home. Because she just never really like went down that path. So yeah, we have not in my family done any kind of Zoom call stuff. We still occasionally text here and there and or I will get like the occasional phone call, but by and large, like apart from the like not having the weekly lunches together, I would say probably my contact with my family has largely remained what it was prior to all this. So yeah, we didn't hop into any kind of like FaceTimes or Zoom call, regularly scheduled anything. How about you, Christian?
No Zoom calls. My mom is very like not really into tech. Like she doesn't like she just kind of likes things like cut and dry paper pen and stuff like that. But she did, funnily enough, express an interest in maybe vlogging. Yeah. So I don't know if that's gonna be something that I help her set up with. I'd be happy to, but like, and it's something I've always wanted to do with my mom. Like, is kind of set her up with some kind of vlog. She is something else, and so yeah, no Zoom calls on that end. We ended up just, everybody was mentioning Mother's Day, so we did like a social distance breakfast, and that was about it. But but my dad though, he did express wanting. My dad, he's a bit more into tech and stuff like that. Like he is someone that he's the parent that pushed me into getting into tech and stuff like that, and so he does want to get set up on something like that. But other than that, not really.
Okay. And you, Cameron? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Christian.
No, I forgot what I was going to say.
Okay. Cameron, any Zoom-related activities from your family?
No, my family a couple years ago discovered the app Marco Polo.
Oh, that's right. I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah, so like my family like has an ongoing like Marco Polo chain that goes back like a couple years at this point. So we've just been doing, like, there's just been more Marco Polo than before. But also, like, text chains are now a thing in my family, which before they really weren't. And, like, just people sharing more with each other, with, like, in the family. And me just, like, reading it and then putting it down because, you know, I'm bad at communicating with people. But
are you saying you guys didn't have a group chat before this?
No.
Oh, man.
Like,
Maybe
we would have,
that's
like, a text thread for, oh, what are we going to get Mom for Mother's Day? But we did not have like a group centered chat that things went through. We just didn't talk enough that way to have that happen. Marco Polos are really more where we did our communicating, because you could leave like whatever kind of message you wanted. But also because like everybody, like my oldest sister's 10 years older than me, been married for 18 years. My youngest sister's a year and a half younger than me, married with a kid. Like, I don't have, like, there's very little of what I would need to do to tell what's going on in my life versus them. They have spouses, children, all the things that come with life with just, multiple people. It's like, cool, Cameron, what's going on in your life right now? After work the other day, I took some time and tried starting up on that Upload show again. Was really a big fan of how episode 3 was going. There's that weird turn with the guy who might be his friend, but is like actually kind of manic and super depressive. I don't know really if I'm going to go back to it. Like, why am I going to, like, they don't care about that. You didn't even care.
They can listen to the podcast.
Yeah, I was going to say.
There you go, yeah.
There you go. There's that whole, like, that's been that was my day the other day. Like, I don't have much going on outside of, like, I mean, if they want to, like, I don't have a lot of, like, common interests with a lot of my siblings. And so, like, I love them to death, but, like, and I'd do anything for them, but, that also means that I don't want to bore their minds out.
Yeah, that's fair. So question I have kind of then for everybody is, because I'm assuming, so in Arizona here, our kind of stay-at-home order has been lifted now as of this weekend. Is it the same for you guys in Texas?
Yes and no, I guess.
Area.
So
I'm gonna let Josh
right.
lead on this.
So the governor.
By the way, no relation between him and I. I want to make that very clear.
Right? Yeah, Governor Abbott, not related to Cameron Abbott.
Not whatsoever.
No, and lucky you. So a week or two ago,
he's an ass.
He is an ass. He opened the state, said that everything. He put out a 2-phase plan. So it was 2 weeks ago. It was phase 1. Any restaurants could be 25%. National parks, stuff like that. Phase 2 is supposed to start tomorrow, I think, and it includes bars, hairdressers, gyms, the like. Our mayor Adler, who is not to be political, but like perhaps wiser than Governor Abbott, he said no, basically, and he was like, no, you still need to wear a mask in public, and you should be social distancing, 6 feet, no big groups, this stuff. And Governor Abbott replied that you couldn't prosecute, you couldn't fine anybody for not wearing a mask, you couldn't arrest anybody, like, there's nothing you can do to uphold your own law. So Austin's in a weird place right now, because the mayor wants us all to be smart and not get each other sick, and the governor doesn't seem to really care. So, places are reopening, like we said, my job's reopening Wednesday. Spoilers. I have a team meeting on Tuesday to reorient with the new safety precautions. But everyone's out and about. I see a lot of people out without masks, which I guess is their prerogative since they can't be fined for it. And I don't know. Austin is in a weird place right now, because we don't really know. We don't really know what the ruling is. We have two different people telling us two different things, and
Yeah, it's and like, I mean, our stay-at-home has technically been lifted, but like I'm still going to be working home for at least the next couple weeks. Per my employer is basically continuing to allow that or encourage that, and so we don't know necessarily when things are going to start actually opening up, and the if you lean into the biggest horror stories, the people that do this too prematurely just end up having to close themselves back off again in a few weeks anyway. So we'll see how all that plays out. But
it's also important to note that we're doing it a bit differently in Arizona because not our stay-at-home order has expired. However, there have been introductions of like strict guidelines for businesses to, like, if businesses are going to reopen, they have to do the following. If you are
there's still like CDC guidelines and follow all that stuff.
And there's also like new certification for people who have like hairdressers and barbers have to do a CDC like course to basically be like, this is protocol to keep everybody safe. Social distancing guidelines in general are still being enforced. Basically, there's never been like a legal enforcement here, but it's basically been the governor and the health department kindly asking businesses to make sure they're doing this.
Sure.
We are.
But yeah, there was a screen. I remember I saw a thing going around my Facebook feed a couple days ago from like a bar on Mill Avenue or something that had just a bunch of dumbasses all like hanging out together and just being like, oh, I hate this. I hate this so much.
Oh yeah.
I had a friend who said we went out like on Monday. They're like, we went out to a restaurant and we were brave, and like a bunch of people making comments like, as brave as our brave healthcare workers. And to be fair, this friend who I'm friends with on Facebook in high school was the same friend who lent me Loose Change, the conspiracy like the conspiracy film about 9/11. So like, I know what he thinks about the whole pandemic thing. So I'm not surprised that he thinks that there's no real danger out there.
I guess this is all setting up or because one of the things I'm curious about back on Jazz's topic of quarantine birthdays is should there still be kind of some of this stuff in effect when it comes to your respective birthdays? How are you guys? Are you guys thinking about approaching them, doing through Zoom calls or any other like non-traditional means? Like, how would you want to handle a quarantine birthday? Should we still be in some semblance of quarantine by the time we get around to your birthdays?
That's my
people
secret,
would need
Trevor. Every birthday is a quarantine birthday.
Jesus Christ, Christian.
Dang it, Christian, you stole it from me.
Right.
I was like, Trevor, here's the thing. People would have to want to spend time with me on my birthday.
Guys,
Fair enough.
Christian, you stole my thunder on that one. Oh, that was good, though.
We're throwing a That Nerdy Site birthday for Christian and Austin. Frank and Logan are here, and I'm here, so we're going to drag Christian out, assuming the bars are open, which they will be because bars had a soft open 2 days ago, which is asinine, but whatever. It's not political. Christian, we're dragging you out for your birthday to do something. When's your birthday? When is anyone's birthday? I don't know anybody's birthday in this group.
It's at the end of the year, and to be fair, I guess I made it slightly social last year. I went with Frank and possibly Logan to see Star Wars together.
Oh, nice. You guys did.
Yeah, that's right.
I think you and Frank went.
Yeah,
because I think it was Sonic that the three of you went.
Yeah, so it was me, Frank, and another friend here, Robert, who I know through the Gone Gold guys and Ogpos. And David. Yeah, David was there too. Yeah, so David and Frank. So yeah, but that is my usual MO, is I will find something either the day before or the day after that is kind of social, and I will in my head pretend that is my birthday party.
Nice.
Yeah,
we'll throw you a party.
But that's
sorry. My thought was Christian goes alone to a restaurant, sits next to a busy table, and is like, "This is my birthday party."
But that's where I'm comfortable. That's where I feel. That's my favorite level of attention is side character.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I love you, Christian. I love you so much.
Christian is an NPC in his own right.
I respect that.
That's the weird thing. Is like that's where like how do you want to spend it? Like
well, every other day you're a main character, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, how about you, Jazz? As certainly the most outgoing of any of us.
Man, I got obliterated on my last birthday. Like not cute. It was an unfortunate series of events of just like all of a sudden everybody I knew was like, "Hey, we're at this same bar that's your favorite bar. Isn't it your birthday?" And it was downhill from there, man. Yeah, I threw up in a Whataburger drive-thru.
Whoa.
Nice.
That's a very Texas-specific thought, but like if anyone else has done it, man. But yeah, like 2 a.m.
I assume everybody.
We do have the Whataburgers out here. I'm sure it has happened.
Yeah, we have Whataburgers. It's Phoenix. Phoenix is the capital of Team Fat. It has everything. We've got it all.
We have almost all the fast foods, basically.
Which is a shame.
That was my birthday.
Whataburger is usually like the cherry on top of drinking, so that's always unfortunate.
Out here it's like Filiberto's that's your go-to on after a night of heavy drinking is just the greasiest drive-through like taqueria.
Whataburger is that, yeah. I went to a couple different bars rather. I had a couple drinks that were named after my old profession, which is a dangerous game. If there's a drink named after your job, change jobs, don't drink the drink. But didn't do either. It was a rough birthday. It was fun.
So if the pandemic is still kind of going on at these levels, are you going to brave the bar scene, or are you going to try and do something, an alternative approach?
I'm not. I know if we're still locked down like this, and not even if we're locked down like this, if coronavirus is still this much of a threat to people, I've kind of said this before, and I've had man, not to get too personal on a podcast, but here we go, right? I've had a couple different dudes trying to hit me up and be like, come hang out. Like, first of all,
Aren't you
no,
in
thank
a
you.
relationship?
But second of all, we're in quarantine. I had a dude who I knew from I think a college class, but he straight up deleted me on Snapchat because he was like, come over. I was like, no, because we're quarantined, and he just deleted me. Like, this is so excessive, but what part of this don't you get? People are wilding. And I don't want to put anybody in danger, even though I don't think, I don't think I'm spreading it, but why risk it? So
Yeah.
No, you're fair.
I would stay home, and, I have a couple close friends that I know are quarantining as closely as I am. So maybe I would hang out with one of them, but I would do a Zoom call. I would play Jackbox games and just have fun and hang out with my friends the best that I could. I'm not trying to make any situation worse, and as much as I miss my favorite bar, they have a Facebook page where people upload their karaoke attempts, so I'll just click through that. Happy birthday to me.
Nice.
I never really gave my answer
Yeah.
with a hypothetical. So mine's in December. So I mean, I don't ask anyone, and I think a lot of people are going to say that this should be over by then. But if you ask me personally, I don't think it's going to be over by then. And by
So here's the thing
by
about that. Go ahead though.
Okay, so and I after what I say I'm going to say, I'm going to spend literally 0 seconds on continuing that. So and by over, what I mean is currently the long and short of what is more or less safe is 2 weeks consecutive, right, with no cases, more or less, right?
I mean, sure, theoretically, but it could always come back. So
That's theoretical. That's for example, we're open, but we're not supposed to be open technically here in Texas, right? Because we haven't had 14 days.
Oh, you're referring,
Not
to,
even
you're referring to
close.
the federal guidelines of when a state should start opening up.
Okay, let me.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
I'm going in
accurate.
circles. So the long and short of it is that if the recommendation is to stay inside, then yes, I agree, stay inside. And it's interesting. I've actually had to deal with birthday topics kind of recently. That's funny that it's one of the topics we had because I literally got asked to shoot some photography for a kid's birthday, and I had to be but it's Corona, and yeah, and literally today, the only reason I leave is to get groceries, and maybe I need to take stuff back and forth between this house and my mom's house. And today I had to get groceries, and there was somebody in my neighborhood setting up a birthday party outside, with getting the tables and chairs and the little tent outside and everything, and
Were they keeping things 6 feet apart?
no, everything
no.
it looked like normal. And further down the street, there was a house with a bouncy house in front of it. So kids in there are definitely gonna be bouncing around and getting stuff all over. And so, so I don't agree with that. And so if things are still like this when it's my birthday, I will like to keep it online, probably with a Twitch thing, a Twitch chat.
that's fair. Cool.
I just want to say, just to let everybody know, we are only in the first wave. The second wave is likely to come sometime in August, with the third wave happening sometime in November, December, January.
Cool,
So
I
it's
love
we are. And by the way, second wave is always much worse than the first wave.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be given the national federal response thus far. I don't anticipate this ending anytime soon. And yeah, it's going to be well until we get a vaccine for it that we're going to actually start going back to any real sense of normalcy, without hopping back into all this chaos. But yeah, speaking of other things that we can be doing in quarantine, I guess. We weren't speaking of that really, but segue into that for Christian's topic. One of the things you said you've been doing, Christian, is you're having kind of maybe a hard time getting into some of our the more nerdy things we would talk about on these shows, but as a result you've kind of been trying to occupy yourself by learning new skills in quarantine. So how's that going? What kind of things are you picking up and or diving into or looking into?
Yeah, so just to give a little background, so I wasn't an essential worker at the time that quarantine got put into effect. I was working as a substitute, and so uh, it's like schools are
When
closed.
schools started
Yeah,
closing
school.
down, they didn't
So,
really
so yeah,
need substitutes.
they made that effect, and so I started and worked for 2 weeks, and then it was spring break, and then in the middle of spring break is when they're like, nobody's coming back. Um, yeah, and so I've just had a lot of time at home, um, but because I was under contract, like I'm gonna be able to do unemployment, and so there's not a rush to get a new job because I again not to spend too much time on it, but like I think the safest thing to do is for me is to stay inside if I don't literally have to, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna like it's my first time ever doing unemployment, and so it is a weird feeling, but like as weird as it is, it's technically the safest thing I think for me is staying inside. So anyways, so yeah, so I've had lots of time, but I've always had, not I've always had, but like I've in the last 2 years been having like an increase in anxiety and stuff, and so I've just been trying to tackle that uh, through being productive, but or enjoying my usual things that I like to do. But I don't know if it's just being quarantined or any number of things, but for some reason, yeah, it's been hard to get into my usual nerdy things, which would be video games occasionally, anime above anything else. But it's super hard for me to like start something new for some reason. And if nothing else, like if I don't watch anime, like for sure I'm usually listening to podcasts, but I've been falling behind on like so many of those things. And so to try to get back into the rhythm of my usual things, I'm just trying out things that I've been putting off, just whatever keeps me moving and or engaged, I guess, more than anything. Because like uh, I'm getting tongue tied. uh, and so yeah, some of the things that I've been putting off that I've really been wanting to get back into is art. Like I grew up like drawing and sketching constantly, but like as soon as I picked up the camera, I pretty much dropped almost for forever, like pen and paper and doing any kind of sketching and drawing and stuff like that. But it's something I've really been wanting to get back into. Like the more I get into anime, from the production side of it, the more like I'm looking up behind the scenes, and I'm just like really finding a whole new appreciation for like 2D animation and art in general, and the principles of proportions and balance and stuff. And so I've just found a whole new interest and appreciation for animation. So I've been just trying to learn as much as I can, because since we're going to be stuck inside, it's very unlikely that I'll get a chance to do much shooting at an event or anything like that, much less something narrative like a short film or music video. So I'm going to try, like one of my goals is to try learning to make animations. That way I can, kind of get that video production itch, but in a new way, something that I can do, from the safety and comfort of my home. This is animation. So been doing a lot of studying on that, and it's really interesting and really fun. And I have been trying I downloaded like it's like a little flip app, like kind of like what they had on DS, where you can make little animations. I got that on my phone and just I'm just giving it a whirl. And that's like the first thing. I've also been like I mentioned narrative, that I have an interest in that, and so I've been doing a whole lot of research on writing structure and screenplays and stuff, which is all stuff that I totally skipped. Like I got my degree in film and everything, but it was all technical. Like I didn't spend a lot of time getting to learn about story structure. It was all very like just here's how you format a TV script and a film script and this and that, but they never went into like the principles of writing exactly. And so I'm playing catch up with a lot of stuff that like I guess I've just been holding off for a long time.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, like I applaud you for taking the opportunity that we have to kind of try and work on some more skills, as opposed to me replaying games and putting hundreds of hours into Persona for the third time. That definitely is time that could have been spent better learning how to friggin' edit shit in Premiere or something like that, I'm sure. So I applaud that. The one thing I have, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, just like, I mean, honestly, like a big thing that's kept me pushing to try to, make it the best of this time is seeing people in the community, take up streaming, or just Bryce, who's someone I met at the Kind of Funny Mizzou meetup when I was doing the documentary. He's been doing art streams and posting his art more, and So yeah, it's really just been seeing like a lot of our friends in the community trying to like do more. That's gotten me to push to be like, I need to try to do more too.
Yeah, I was looking at myself. I was looking at the other day. I was like, don't want to don't want to try and like because one of the things I need to and we need to get back and be better about is Twitch streaming for that nerdy site. And that just fell by the wayside when the rest of the world got busy and then fell apart. But one of the things I was looking at myself was investing in building a nice high powered PC or something to do streaming and just give myself like instead of the makeshift setup I have here, try and like build a dedicated setup for something like that. So I was actually looking at like, oh, what would it be like to do a PC build as somebody that hasn't like I built myself a PC when I was in like high school, but that was probably like 20 years ago when I actually built that PC with my dad. So things have changed a lot since then, I'm sure. But so I was looking into that. And then the other like skill that I've sort of been adding here in quarantine is through my work. I as the database manager for my company, I mostly work on like the front end of the database platform we use, but it does have a SQL backend. So I've kind of been reteaching myself coding here and there, and specifically like learning SQL coding, which I have done in various capacities over the years in past jobs, but mostly I always joked that I'm a good database manager for a nonprofit where the extent of my skills needs to be I can use Excel really, really well. If I were to go and apply for like a for-profit database manager or data analyst kind of position, almost everywhere they would be wanting me to be able to write and produce reports out of SQL coding or something like that, which I just have never really had the skill set for. I can pick it up and I can like read my way through a SQL report, but I can't. I wouldn't know the first thing about writing it. So I've been trying to kind of make myself a little bit more versed in that as a result. And so I'm going in and kind of looking at some tutorials and seeing how other people use our database and SQL coding and kind of pulling some reports there. And so that's been a cool little thing. But yeah, I'm not doing that nearly as much as I could or should be doing maybe for the amount of time I have to put into something like that. How about you, Jazz or Cam? Are you guys doing anything in terms of trying to pick up new skill sets?
Well, Trevor, first, I was going to say, if you need help with your SQL sequencing, all you got to do is hit me up, man, because I don't know a thing about coding. So, never mind. I just wanted to say, dude, that's crazy. Coding is one of my kryptonite, and so I just applaud you for even touching it, because I will not even look at it if I don't have to.
Oh, I mean, so my background, a little bit just as a slight tangent, was before I did theater and business management. My first degree at ASU, I spent a year studying computer systems engineering, and it was like I want to say it was like a 5-year program that because of like all the credits I came into ASU with, I could have gotten done in 3. And I did. So I spent my first year doing coding, and just like almost immediately was like, I enjoy playing video games way more than like writing code for video games and that kind of stuff. So I just kind of bounced away from it. But I still like know enough of the syntax basics that when I later got a job as like a database person for a solar company, I was able to kind of take some of the reports and coding that they had built and kind of reverse engineer and modify and tweak some stuff. And so I did a ton of coding there in my 2 years in solar, just kind of working in like Visual Basic and writing Microsoft reports. But then I got away from it throughout the next 7 years in nonprofit sector stuff. So I'm going back into it, and the biggest change or the biggest thing between like Visual Basic and SQL is I just need to know which words trigger which commands and stuff. But I still like understand for the most part the structure of all the coding, going back to my first year of college some 17 years ago now. And it's weird to think that like I use that on a regular basis, probably more than I use anything else I learned in college for either of my dedicated degrees. So it's there. I'm just not as good at it as I would like to be, or as most jobs would require me to be. But it's fun getting back into it.
Awesome.
And not with the like I have to do this on a dedicated time frame or I'm going to fail a class.
Yeah, it's at
It
your
is
comfort.
like I can do the things that I do for work without it, but these end up giving me little shortcuts, and I can do things quicker if I can learn the coding and figure it out. So it's been cool. But yeah, so Jazz or Cam, do you guys have any skills you're trying to pick up here?
I started streaming, and I also have been doing more with Photoshop. Just trying to get better at it. I have access to it now, so I was like, you know what, let's just put some time into it, get better, more familiar with those tools. Just because I enjoy photoshopping things, whether it's just editing photos that I take or making like images that Trevor just screams at me for. So it's either of those. But no, I also spent I've been spending time. I haven't streamed lately because I'm still trying to figure out how to funnel sound from my PS4 into my PC to stream it.
Yeah, that was one of the struggles I had too, and one of the reasons I kind of stopped was the streams I was doing early on for that nerdy site were just the audio from my TV being picked up on like my microphone because I couldn't figure out how to get the PS4 audio to go through the Elgato appropriately. So I was like, this isn't a great solution, and I want to figure out how to make that work before I really get back into it.
Yeah, it's I'm still struggling to figure it out. I know I eventually will, but I started playing Undertale. Trevor knows I was playing it. I really enjoy the game. I really want to keep playing through it. But I've kind of put everything on hold until I get this stream thing figured out, and then I've also been handling some other stuff as far as like I've been developing a few other things behind the scenes in the meantime as well. But practicing as far as like developing new skills, I've definitely been working more on some of my writing, but also Photoshop and streaming for sure.
Cool. Jazz, how about you?
I have been trying to write songs.
Ooh.
Nice.
It's not easy. It's very different than anything I've done before. So I've been working on that.
Hey, Jazz, you want to hear something funny?
Absolutely.
I'm writing about people trying to write songs, and that's not a meme. And so and I'm having trouble writing that.
Write about me, please. Yeah, writing about people to write songs, definitely hard. Writing songs, also definitely hard. It's a whole cycle.
Are you writing like music or lyrics or all of the above?
Mostly, I'm trying to write lyrics. I've been thinking about trying to get more into music. All of my musical background is in singing and in playing the cello, neither of which I would argue are good for writing the music for songs. So
lies.
Fair.
Cello players always make the best songwriters. It's a known fact.
I appreciate that. Dude, I love the cello. I have one, actually. I got like a cheap one for Christmas. Someone got me, and so trying to get back into that, too. Yeah. Get those
Cellos are
balances
awesome.
back.
Pick that skill back up?
I quote-unquote played the cello in the 4th grade.
I played it for 9 years of my life.
There you go.
Wow.
When I say I quote-unquote played it, I mean I was supposed to go to the morning lessons, but I would usually just like use it as an excuse to go to school early to play with my friends. So.
Yeah.
I watched a Jack Black movie, and he makes a funny joke. He goes cello, and that's my experience with the cello.
You never heard cellists spread their legs? That's a classic that I got teased for.
Oh, cellists,
yeah. You never heard that?
Cellists,
Yeah.
Cellists,
all the time.
because you spread your legs when you hold the cello.
That's the one.
Yeah. I was not that in touch with the orchestra people because I played with our orchestra growing up as one of the percussionists in high school and middle school and stuff. In fact, I remember specifically the song "My Heart Will Go On" from Titanic will always live with me because I performed that at Disneyland as part of like a field trip with my orchestra. And so yeah, like the band that year didn't really do anything cool, but because I got to also be with the orchestra in middle school, we went to Disneyland. We got to perform in the like Disney recording studios on like the backlot and stuff. Because it was a thing that like a lot of schools did as kind of like a potential field trip thing. But yeah, then we got to go out and perform in Main Street somewhere, one of the terraces. we just like walked through the back alleys of Disneyland and kind of got set up, performed My Heart Will Go On and maybe like one or two Disney songs, and then got shuffled back to the back lot and then spent the rest of the day at Disneyland. But yeah, so that's like the extent of my like real strong orchestral memories. But it's still cool. And I've seen a lot of people actually like trying to get back into kind of their musical instrument roots during this time where they have the free time to pick those things back up maybe.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely slow going. It's one of those it is muscle memory, but it's old muscle memory. Mm-hmm. So it's still there, but you have to find it again. But hopefully it'll get there. I was, man, not to toot my own horn, but I was pretty damn good when I was 17, so maybe I'll be all right. And then I'll write some cool cello and vocal songs, because that's my only wheelhouse. But that's what I'm working on.
Nice. It's like I remember going through a very brief period where I was like, quote unquote, writing songs. Never did anything with them. It was just like I had a notebook where I was like I would do like, okay, verse, chorus, chorus, or something like that, or a bridge or something like. And that was like very early college. I was in a band at that point, but like this was completely like disparate. I was not bringing these songs to the band. It was just kind of like a thing I was doing as a creative writing exercise, I guess, more than anything else. But yeah, I could never, like, the thing that always got me was like I would want to write the sheet music for it, and I'm just like, as a drummer I can read sheet music, but I couldn't figure out what I wanted to write for it. So
that's interesting. But I played bass in my my band in high school, and I thought constantly about picking it back up, but the last time I tried picking it back up I realized like there is so much of that muscle memory that I have just lost between like some injuries, between just arthritis in general. Like my hands aren't in the same kind of shape that they were in when I was in high school. And so the muscle memory is not working the way that, I kind of was hoping it would. Mm-hmm. And it's been a while, but like things have only gotten worse from there. So, it sucks because it's like you don't always have the opportunities to go back and try to pick something up when you think, well, I'll get back to it. Like I sold my bass guitar for rent money, and I haven't owned a bass guitar since. Mm-hmm. And that was years ago. That was like 8-9 years ago.
Yeah, I sold off my drum kit when like years after I moved into my studio apartment, because there was no room for it here. But my my parents kept it at their place for a little while, and I would still occasionally go back and play it. But it was just kind of like I moved away from it when I started doing theater more and more, and so it was just like, hey, I don't need that set anymore. And I like you guys talking about like muscle memory and stuff. I still drum on my steering wheel all the time, or just on my lap or whatever, and I still do like all of the rudiments and whatnot, just as more as a personal twitch than anything. I'll just to keep my hands occupied, I will drum on things. So
I do the same thing with
one
plucking
of the perks
chords.
I have, I guess, staying there. But yeah, if I were to try and get back into, especially like the broader percussion stuff of like, let me play a timpani or a xylophone or a marimba or something like that, I'm like, I would have to really struggle to pick that stuff back up.
Yeah, I do that thing where I pluck like the chords. Like I know that I'm plucking the right chords. When I'm like listening to something, it's just like, especially when I get really into it, I will just like kind of find myself like subconsciously doing it. But most of the time I find myself doing it because like I've done something that like has like tweaked my hand a little bit and hurt it. So I can't do like it sucks, but at the same time, like it feels like, honestly, when I sold my bass guitar, it felt like I was like giving up a dream I didn't think that I had about being a rock star. Mm-hmm. Like, well, now I'll never be a rock star. I sold my bass. That wasn't my goal before, but yeah.
I can appreciate that. Jazz, were you gonna say something?
No.
I was
sorry.
Just gonna say that, like, that's one of my, well, in rewinding just a little bit more, the whole band and orchestra. Like, I was in band in middle school, and that's always one of my regrets, is that I didn't do the orchestra instead. Well, I don't know what it was like when they were setting up y'all's electives, but like for music, they were just like, everybody come in, play with, like, kind of like talk to us, and we know where we'll put you. And so they put me in like these brass horn stuff in the band, because we're like, They're like, try this mouthpiece, and they're like, yeah, you got it, cool, we're gonna put you here. And I was like, no.
Interesting. Yeah, no, we were because I started back in 4th grade, and we were like, we had basically, you can go in band class, you can go into orchestra class, and in my case, it was for 4th grade. Like, I wanted to be a drummer. I had played on like my family's pots and pans and stuff all growing up, and that was what I wanted to play. But my school required us for the first year, at least when I was still doing it. A few years ago, or a few years later, they would like lift this restriction, and I got a little annoyed. But we had to play a wind instrument for the first year if we were going to be in band. And so that we played the flutophone for like to train us basically on like hot cross buns, and here's how to blow into the instrument, all that stuff. And then from there you could go and choose, do you want to play the flute, clarinet, or one of the horns, or a saxophone, or something like that. And so I played clarinet actually in 4th grade before in 5th grade moving to drums and percussion. So yeah, but yeah, we were given the choice to do it, but they did have some restrictions here and there. And if you were in like the orchestra class did not have a dedicated drummer, so it was they took and borrowed drummers from the band that wanted to do it. And so yeah, like you had a lot of the drummers just wanted to play snare drum. They didn't want to learn and read the music or any of that other kind of stuff. So so as one of the people that was trying to be more well versed and well rounded, I was pretty much always one of the ones that would get chosen to go and do the orchestra concerts. And it was like the orchestra would do, they would rehearse all that stuff, and then we would basically get thrown in for like a couple rehearsals on like an after school class or something like that. Or we would be given the music and kind of like told to like learn and play through the part on our own. I think even maybe they would occasionally give us like a recording of the orchestra playing that we could kind of like learn to play along with. But yeah, it was largely disconnected from like playing with the rest of the orchestra. Only once I got to high school did we have like dedicated, okay, if you're going to be in the orchestra class, like, or if you're going to be a drummer for the orchestra class, you have to actually take the orchestra class. So yeah, like I want to say my senior year of high school, I was in the band class, the percussion specific class, and then also the orchestra like half credit class or something for like after hours or before school or something like that. And then also like 2 choir classes. I did way too many arts in high school.
I wish I had done more.
Yeah.
But I was a bit shy about that. But
yeah.
No, and the funny thing is, all the friends that I made, all the best friends I made, all orchestra kids. All the people I made enemies with, my only fight in band, So like, dude, yeah, no, it was wrong sorting hat there kind of moment.
Yeah, orchestra kids forever. Start that fight. Just kidding. Orchestra's so chaotic. We're all nightmares.
Yeah.
I don't think there's like an arts-based class ever that's not just an absolute nightmare.
It's true.
One more thing. So I didn't bring this up earlier because it wasn't something I've officially started, but I'm literally looking at it here in my room. But I did. There was a couple of keyboards in the garage, and so I brought one in my room because I figured it might be fun to learn that and try that again. I didn't mention it because like I haven't started yet, so it felt a little fake. But since we're all kind of talking about things that we are meaning to start, so that's one. Like my parents tried putting me in like piano lessons like as a kid, but they tried to teach all these boring songs, and I think that's why I never stuck with it. Like, but like me being 30, I'm just gonna learn all the Kingdom Hearts because like that's my shit.
Exactly, I was gonna say just learn simple and clean.
Exactly, I'm just gonna learn. Man,
that's all you gotta care
about. You want to know?
Dearly Beloved is literally just piano.
You want to hear something very sad? Do you guys want to hear something very sad? What? So my mother teaches piano, and she only ever gave me one lesson because within a single lesson she determined that I was never going to be able to learn, and gave up on me.
Was it the song? Do you remember?
No, like it was like the first beginner, like positioning your hands and everything, and like I was like doing what I could, doing my best, and she's just like, you know what, this is never gonna work for you. This is never gonna be good for you. And so she just like gave up on me, and it's like to this day, it's like, Mom, why'd you give up on me? She's like, because I could see it wasn't gonna work. I was like, man, that's so hard, but like truthful and honest. She's like, I didn't want to waste. She's like, I didn't want to waste my time with it, and you didn't want to waste your time with it. You're better at other things. Go do other things. It's like, dang.
Well, I'm going to take a stab at it because if nothing else, then I can learn Dearly Beloved when I'm feeling like vibing.
There you go, man.
I mean, yeah, I again, playing percussion, I learned how to read music and stuff, but I never really got into playing the piano itself. But I did, like the few songs I would learn were like I learned My Heart Will Go On before I had to end up playing it like time and time and time again. And then I also learned the theme from Harry Potter. And could probably like with limited like refresher pick those songs back up. But yeah, there was a time in college where I picked up like a cheap electric keyboard and was gonna teach myself piano here in my little studio apartment, and it was like just so I could like play Return to Xanarkand or something like that from Final Fantasy stuff. So if you end up actually doing that and learning some Kingdom Hearts songs, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, enough of it is in the
luck.
back of my mind. Like I learned a little. I learned just enough to like I could play Jurassic Park. Like, you know, everybody picks the one or two songs they want to know, so I can play Jurassic Park and I can play the Song of Storms from Ocarina of Time. And so with those two, I still have maintained a memory of like where the keys are placed, you know. So I have that little bit. I'm kind of the equivalent of like when your parents are typing on the keyboard, but they have to look at the keyboard, like.
Yeah.
So I just got to get back into like remembering scales and stuff like that.
And they're typing like one finger.
Yeah,
at a time.
that's me. Like I know where the A and the B. I know where they are. Just give me a second.
Yeah. Well, cool. Let's round out with Cameron, kind of your topic. You want to talk a little bit about Predator Hunting Grounds, and then your weekly Overwatch League update. So hit us. What you been doing in Predator Hunting Grounds?
Been killing a lot of predators, and also killing a lot of like squad people.
Fire. So you're switching between playing as the fire team and the Predator? Okay.
I always go with like whichever like comes first. Like I always do this like no preference when I do it. And so like I've ended up being the Predator before. I've been
Trevor, I'm sorry.
Squad people
if
before.
You're listening to
fire
this,
team.
I'm muted
have
to
to say
Discord.
I'm
Since Cameron's talking, 50, and so I
picked it up on Thursday.
that if you're editing this, you would still hear me.
Put a lot of time into it. It's been a lot
so,
of fun.
Sorry,
that game is just
quiet,
a lot of fun.
Muted.
It reminds me a lot of Friday the 13th because it's made by the same people. But
yep.
It's good to see that. It's really nice to see how this game has come together for them. And what's really nice is it's with a property that it's going to let them keep working on it rather than getting caught up into a legal nightmare like Friday the 13th did.
Yeah.
But it's good to see. I mean, Gio Corsi, shout out. He's heading the studio over there. So
he's not the head of the studio, but he's working over there.
I mean, I guess so. Like wherever Gio Corsi works, he's the head. He's the boss there. That's just the rule. Okay. Gio Corsi's the man.
Yeah, I've caught a few streams of it. I don't have any inclination to hop in and play it again myself. I played like one game at PAX West last year, back when we could go to conventions and stuff. And I played it. I was the Predator, but I didn't know anything about the game, and so like I didn't know that there were NPCs in particular.
So you're just going around murdering a bunch of people.
I jumped down and like attacked some NPCs, thinking I was attacking like the squad of four that I needed to attack, and they just immediately like all like landed and attacked me and killed me. I ended up like detonating the nuke and killing them, but like the whole game was done in like 3 minutes, and I was like, I felt bad because it was one of those demos that you had to like book an appointment in the app for. Like people had been like waiting all day for that appointment, and because I was so bad at the game or didn't understand it, their gameplay was limited to 3 minutes. And so I felt real bad about that.
Well, to be fair, like it's really easy
fun
to
watch and see like how people are playing it. Yeah. So yeah, it's like I'm enjoying the streams and the gameplay and stuff I've seen of like the kind of funny people or like Snowbike Mike and his squad playing it. And yeah, it definitely scratches that Friday the 13th vibe that you're talking about. But yeah, I don't want to play it, or I don't have the inclination enough to play online stuff that I would want to do that.
Well,
I do appreciate that the fire team squad has like way more to do and way like has a way better chance nowadays than the campers did in Friday the 13th. I think it's more balanced.
It certainly is, and I would actually go as far to say that the experience of being a fire team member is extremely fun because between the breadth of weapon choices that you have, as well as like loadouts, specialties where stats are differently distributed depending on like what specialist you're using, whether it's assault or recon, etc. Not only that, but also like different kind of weapon combinations and customizations with it that you can do really makes it a lot of fun. And the missions are varied enough that even if there's only 3 maps, the missions will switch it up each map depending on like what you're going to do. So I've repeated a lot of the same missions, but most people I know who start playing that game haven't played it as much as me, and in that short period of time, and are still like finding new missions and getting new mission stuff. What's great though is that I love just like being in a squad of people, like needing to like lean on each other. Depending on what kind of predator that you have, you will have to deal with somebody who might be very aggressive towards the beginning of the game. Somebody who's very experienced is very difficult to deal with because they have all of the predator's goodies and tools to use. It's a lot of fun though. It's just a lot of fun, and really.
Are you playing with dedicated like friends, or are you playing with randos?
No, I've never played a custom game. I've only ever played with randos.
Okay.
It's I have had like some really like deep bonding moments with some guys who had mics and they're talking to me, and I'm like responding by like either like crouching or doing something to communicate with like the voice options.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like by the end of one of them, we were like, it was like a real harrowing experience, and we all got out of there. And it's just like, wow, like we did it. Like, can you like we're here? Can you believe it? It's like that Paul Rudd Hot Ones meme.
Yeah.
Like it's
look at us.
Like we're here. We made it. Just some great experiences with that game. That it's just been a lot of fun, and it's something that I have a lot of respect for the people who made it. When they took what they learned from Friday the 13th and then elevated it up to this point where, like, the gunplay feels good when you're the squad mates. Like the gunplay or Team Voodoo, that's what they're called, Team Voodoo. It feels good when you're playing Voodoo, and like the gunplay is good, different sights, different styles. Like it's so much fun, and like part of me wishes this game was like $20 so I could just be like, yeah, definitely go out and pick it up. Like it's worth it. But at a $40 price tag, you're asking a little bit more. So if you're interested, check, like if what I've said sounds interesting, check it out. Like check out streams, look up YouTube videos. Kind of Funny did a couple of Let's Plays that are just phenomenal. But I will say like, it's definitely worth the $40 if that's what you want. If it's not a game that you want to play right now, don't worry about it. I've definitely certainly gotten my $40 out of it. But
cool.
That's up to other people to decide how they're going to pull, like whether or not they want to make that lunge.
And that's one of those games that I feel like anytime they do a sale for it or something, you'll get a new influx of players coming in. So it might be like you'll have the people that definitely stuck with the game and will clean your shop if you wait for that. But it's cool to see that because you hopped in basically a couple weeks after it came out and you're still enjoying it and having a great time with it.
Yeah, and what's nice is that I don't feel like the learning curve is so small in that game. Even as the Predator, like playing 1 or 2 games as the Predator, cool. You know what you're supposed to do. You know how you're supposed to move. You know how your weapons are supposed to work. Like it gives you a very good idea playing that game once or twice. And the best part is matches are like 10 to 15 minutes a piece. Like not these long hour-plus long matches you got in Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Just very much shorter. The maps are all fairly small, and what's great about it is like depending on the kind of like if you're the Predator and the kind of fire team you're fighting versus with a kind of Predator that you might be having to deal with. We had a Predator who I figured out halfway through the game was actually helping us.
He was taking out like the NPCs and stuff.
He like all of a sudden we're like, oh, we got to dodge these like laser beams from the Predator, but he's like taking out like the heavy duty NPC guys, and it's like, huh? And like there's like a squad of dudes that we had to kill, because they like as part of the story of that mission, and he like swooped in, killed all of them for us, and then leapt back out, and we're like, what's going on? And like then he then landed right when our helicopter got there and just like uncloaked and like just stood and watched us as we left. And it's just like, what the heck? Like, what a weird experience. Like a pacifistic Predator, like towards players anyway. Certainly was butchering the NPCs, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized because he was killing so many NPCs, it denied us so much XP. Like, I didn't even get a level. Like, I was close to leveling up, and I didn't even level up from that mission because we just, like, we did the mission. And that's it.
So he was just a secret troll.
Yeah,
You didn't
was
realize he was trolling
us.
you the whole time.
He was trolling us by letting us all live, but taking all of our kills. And it's, like, brilliant. Like, that is such a, like, what an incredible experience to have that in a game like this. Just
Jazz or Christian, any questions or additional comments on Predator Hunting Grounds? I don't know how much you guys know about the game.
I don't know anything about it, and I don't play it, but I've always heard good things, so I'm glad to hear that, it's still doing well. I think I saw, like, a DLC skin for Arnold, so that's cool that they're giving a little
that's coming
fan
out.
service. So I'm just glad. I'm just, like other games that aren't in my wheelhouse, I'm just glad people are enjoying it.
Jazz, anything from you?
I'm taking notes, for sure. I think I've mentioned it at least once, but Logan and I want to start something of a Let's Play series where Logan introduces me to video games, because I don't really play them, barring Until Dawn, which is truly my crowning achievement.
Yeah.
Did everybody survive in your playthrough? Is that why?
No, I predicted the bad guy. It was the dad.
Yeah. She made some really, like, accurate predictions in that game, like 2 hours into the playthrough or something.
I'm
like
the
that.
best. I've never been so smug in my life.
It was specifically the fact that you, like, identified Wendigos were going to be a thing, that I think was what impressed all of us.
Yeah.
Anybody that, like, knew what was going on in that game.
Happy to entertain, but yeah.
You did that like 3 hours before they even start, like, hinting at what it is.
I'm a great fiction writer, so or I just read a lot, but either way, It was a very proud moment for me. But yeah, Logan and I want to do a Let's Play series, and every 3 days Logan would be like, yeah, just send me a list of video games. And I don't know if there's a disconnect, but, like, being that I don't play any video games, I don't know any video games to play. And he's always like, just send me the list of games you want to play. I'm like, Logan, do you want me to list the games that I know that I played as a kid? It was like Wii Sports, Katamari Damacy, and Battle for Bikini Bottom. There's the list. Like, that's what we got. So I am taking notes. If anyone has any suggestions of games they think I should play, please be gentle. So Predator Hunting Ground is now on the list.
So Jazz,
there you go.
I'll
put together a list for you.
I'm on, like, a different side of the spectrum. Like, I know about all these games, and I can tell you about what the community thinks of them, the pros and cons, and developer stories and everything. But I haven't played any of them. And
hey,
but
that's what it is.
It's something that I want to.
All right, so
it's something that I want to.
So
fix.
Christian, you send Logan the list of games that Jazz should play.
So what I
yeah,
was
just
gonna say
anyone help me.
Well, what I was gonna say, Jazz, that it would be cool if maybe we workshopped or talk shop in general off mic sometime, because I was actually planning a kind of a similar little programming for myself, kind of maybe a Let's Play series or a video series where I would try out different games, and I was gonna call it "What Game Do You Game?" and that's a reference from 3 Red Lights from IGN. And the premise of mine, which again, like, it'd be cool if we just swapped, like, ideas and stuff, but, like, the premise that I had was that I would just approach someone in the community with, like, what's some of your favorite games, and, like, to just for an example, Trevor, what's, like, one of your favorite games?
God of War.
God of War. I've never played a God of War, and so
that
I would
sounds
say
hard.
So I would say, Trevor, I've never played a God of War. What's one you would recommend? And Trevor would say,
I would say the 2018
one. And so the premise would be us two getting on, like, some kind of Twitch thing, and us and, like, him kind of couch co-oping, like, kind of a podcast as I play through, like, the first maybe hour or the first level or something like that. And, like, I can just kind of ask him, like, oh, so, tell me about, like, the series. And, like, it's something that these are games that I'm probably not gonna play in general to the end. Like, it'll be cool if I do fall in love with it and do want to finish it to the end. But the kind of, like, the mentality is I probably won't for some of these games, just especially, like, shooters or stuff like that. And so, like, yeah, like, I just thought it'd be kind of a fun idea for me to sit down with some of my friends and get to know the games that they like, and just kind of conversational style, just, like, hear what they like about it and see how I respond. Maybe I'm like, oh, I see all these points, or maybe I'm like, oh, I don't know, I still don't like it. So yeah, I'm in the same boat as far as, like, really wanting to start branching out, because yeah, I don't play nearly as much as I wish I had, and definitely quarantine is a good opportunity to change that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have tentatively a team meeting next week. We can talk about some pitches and stuff like that over there.
Cool.
So cool. All right, Cameron, round us out with your. Let's keep it brief. Overwatch League update.
The Overwatch League watch, or I don't know. We'll figure out. Anyway, so
Owl Watch.
Owl
Boom,
Watch.
boom, boom.
Boom, boom, boom. Anyway, yeah. So with COVID-19 still being rampant, it's caused a lot of issues. Previously, I talked about how it had been confirmed the entire roster of the Vancouver Titans, which came in second place last year overall and was a dominant team for the entire season, were entirely released. And a new team was brought on, this team's Second Wind. Really got to cut their teeth in the Overwatch League. They were a Tier 2, which is kind of like a double A, setting, like style of a league team, where they were basically semi-professionals who were basically, their entire team was brought up to start playing pro. And it was an opportunity for a lot of people to see, okay, we keep hearing Tier 2 is where like the next superstars are going to be coming from. Tier 2, a lot of people say, well, Tier 2 teams are better than some of the Overwatch League teams. And it's like, well, cool, here's proof in the pudding. Interestingly enough, a coach for the Dallas Fuel, Jane, who went on a really long rant when a streamer was brought on to a team, and there was a lot of controversy at the beginning of the season because of possible nepotism, because his brother is a staff member, yada yada yada, etc. Player has been benched the entire season because he's just hasn't been put into the rotation. Finally got his first game this weekend earlier today. Dominated, was really good, but the thing is, he was playing against the Vancouver Titans. So Philadelphia Fusion faced off against Vancouver Titans, and inadvertently, a argument that was made by Jane and echoed by many others about Tier 2 people needing to give preference over these big-time streamers ended up being refuted, because this Tier 2 team, stated to be some of the best Tier 2 players, were absolutely dominated by this streamer who is playing professionally now. And it was a very interesting kind of look at how that was going. Basically, everything everything that has to do with sports right now is turned upside down on its head because of coronavirus, and so Overwatch League is no exception. There have been some big departures for other games, some other people just retiring outright, and some big pickup and signings coming from the former Vancouver Titans roster. Recently, Twilight, with one of their supports, was brought on to the San Francisco Shock. There's been some pickups over in Korea. Seoul Dynasty picked up a player. Washington Justice actually picked up 2 players. So there's been a lot going on there. There's been a lot of kind of upheaval lately in the scene, but in the end, I think it's going to be very good, because we're going to see this former Titans roster that has literally worked together for years have now been broken up, and they're being pieced apart, and we're actually going to see like the worth of each individual piece and how they're going to be fitted into new teams. So it's very exciting. It's a very exciting time for Overwatch League right now. They're entering the May Melee tournament, both in Asia Pacific region and also in North America. We'll be seeing that starting to roll out in the next couple of weeks as May wraps up, going into June. And yeah, it's an excellent time. It's a fun time. So.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious, as the world starts opening back up again, when Overwatch League will try and start, like, at least bringing the players together to all play in the same kind of location and stuff.
Again, yeah, because it'll be interesting to see which homestand, which was most of them were canceled for the summer. Which one of the homestands that was planned is going to be able to actually go through. Will be interesting to see coming up. But
all right, well, thank you for the Overwatch update there, Cameron. That's going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you, everybody, for joining me, especially since it was kind of like a thrown together last-minute episode.
It's good to talk to everyone.
Yeah, good catching up with you guys. Let's go around the metaphorical table with any plugs we might have. You can follow Cameron at RevCabot. Anything you want to shout out, Cameron?
Let's see. Last time I was on here, I didn't think I think I was teasing that I had a review. My review for Wintermoor
Yep.
Tactics Club is up. It's a great game. Give it a shot. Outside of that, not much else outside of me being just on some of these podcasts. Have some interesting projects that we're working on, but those won't be announced till much later. So,
Yep. Okay. You can follow Christian at Pixel Brave. Anything you want to shout out, Christian?
I'm still doing that anime pod that you can find on Twitter at that anime pod. I recently did a video for What's Good Games. They had their 3rd-year anniversary, and so they asked me to edit a compilation video for them. Which
Yeah, it was a nice little video.
oh cool, yeah, they streamed it, and they recently put it on their YouTube channel. So if you go to What's Good Game, you should see that like 3rd anniversary compilation thing. So that was fun. It's been hard to, in addition like nerdy stuff, it's been kind of hard to find motivation to edit, and so like again, it's mostly from anxiety. But doing that I think was like a really good thing to help kind of get me back kind of back into the swing of things, and so hopefully I'll be editing that nerdy side stuff too. I put a nickel in a jar for every time I say that, but again, I think the What's Good Game gig did really push me to like get comfortable again, and just like, this is your safe place, Christian. Edit video, and because and I think just reviewing, I mean, just going over and editing all that fun PAX footage. I think seeing all the familiar faces. I think especially now, like being so separated for so long. Yeah, I think going through that old footage is just what I need, and hopefully what I put out, people will enjoy and get to revisit some of our PAX memories, since that's the last thing I shot recently. So
yeah. The last thing a bunch of people were able to actually go out and be together at. Yeah. You can follow Jazz at Jazz_Foster. Anything you want to give a shout out to, Jazz?
Hopefully we'll see a review from me this week for one of my classic favorites.
Great. All right. You can follow me at Trevor J. Starkey. The shout out I will give is check out our newest podcast. It is another Wednesday show that goes out every week. That anime pod is currently still going out every other week, but our newest show, That News You Care About, is our video game news show hosted by Logan. I believe the intent is I will usually be on there, but we're also going to bring in other guests and whatnot. So check that out as well. The first episode went live last week. The second one will go out this coming Wednesday. Yeah, for the first episode we dove into like the Naughty Dog kind of drama and saga sequence of events that have been going on the last couple months with the working conditions and the leak and all that stuff. And then we also talked about kind of what this summer and the cancellation of E3 and everybody doing their own like digital events means for the future of E3. So check that out as kind of our newest video game news show, and really like the only dedicated video game thing that we do on the site. Obviously, this show often has a heavy bent towards video game stuff, but video game news, something that Logan's been wanting to tackle for a while. So it's fun that we've got this in our repertoire now as well. So check that out. You can follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site, and check out thatnerdysite.com for all of the latest from us. If you liked what you heard, please rate, review, like, subscribe, maybe even consider supporting us over on Patreon at patreon.com/thatnerdysite. Every patron gets early access to a monthly bonus episode of the show, which right now is Frank and myself talking about how Frank is kind of dealing with a lot of the quarantine stuff, and he also, on theme with this, has really been diving into picking up his new skills in video editing. It's something that he's had a passion and interest for, and so he did a lot of our PAX East video coverage so far that we have out there. So check out that if you are a Patreon of ours. Otherwise, it'll go out the end of this month, and you'll have everybody will have access to it then. But yeah, that's going to do it for this week. Thank you again, everybody, for joining me. Thank you for listening, and as always, stay nerdy and be good to each other.